Welcome to West Virginia. Known as one of the most haunted states in America, we will take a deep dive into 7 of the most haunted locations here. Learn about chilling urban legends, haunted backroads, and other paranormal hotspots. As always, if you have any locations that you want us to cover in the future, please comment them down below. Long before it became known as one of the most haunted places in America, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum began with hope. Construction started in the year 1858 in Weston, West Virginia. At the time, it was meant to be a modern hospital that would treat people with mental illness in a calm and humane way. The design followed the Kirkbride Plan, a popular idea during the 19th century. This plan focused on healing through fresh air, sunlight, order, and peaceful surroundings. The building itself was massive. It was designed with long wings that stretched outward, allowing every room to receive light and airflow. Each patient was meant to have space, dignity, and quiet. The stone used to build the asylum was cut by hand, making the structure one of the largest stone masonry buildings of its kind in North America. In its early vision, this place was supposed to be a refuge, not a prison. But history had other plans. Before construction could be finished, the American Civil War broke out. Work on the asylum stopped, and the unfinished building was taken over by soldiers. Both Union and Confederate forces used the grounds at different times. The halls meant for healing instead echoed with marching boots, orders, and the tension of war. Many believe this early violence left a lasting mark on the building. The hospital finally opened its doors to patients in the year 1864. By then, the original dream was already fading. While it was designed to care for only 250 people, the asylum quickly began accepting far more than it could handle. Over time, it became a place where people were sent away and forgotten, not healed. Visitors today often say that just standing outside the building feels heavy. The long stone walls seem to hold memories, and the silence feels unnatural. Many paranormal investigators believe the suffering that began here in its earliest years never truly left. Instead, it's soaked into the stone, waiting to be felt by anyone who dares to step inside. This is where our story begins. Before the ghost stories, before the sightings, and before the whispers in the dark, there was a dream. And when that dream collapsed, it may have created something that still lingers inside the Trans-Allegheny Asylum to this very day. As the years passed, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum became dangerously overcrowded. By the early 20th century, the number of patients far exceeded what the hospital was ever designed to hold. While it was meant for a few hundred people, records show that at its peak, more than 2,000 patients were housed inside. Hallways were filled with beds, storage rooms were turned into sleeping quarters, and privacy became non-existent. Patients arrived for many reasons that would shock people today. Some were sent there for depression or anxiety, while others were committed for alcoholism, epilepsy, or simply being considered difficult by their families. Women could be admitted for postpartum depression, and men could be sent away for refusing to work. Once inside, leaving was often impossible. Many patients spent the rest of their lives within those stone walls. Daily life inside the asylum was harsh and strictly controlled. Patients were separated by gender and diagnosis, with the most severe cases kept far from public view. Food was basic and often insufficient, especially during times of overcrowding. Hygiene suffered, disease spread quickly, and staff members were stretched thin. Though some doctors tried to help, the system itself was failing. Medical treatments reflected the limited understanding of mental health at the time. Patients were subjected to ice water baths, long periods of isolation, and physical restraints. Lobotomies were performed in later years, permanently altering or destroying patients' personalities. Electroshock therapy was also used, often without anesthesia. These treatments were considered acceptable at the time, but they caused immense suffering. Death became a regular part of life inside the asylum. Some patients died from illness, others from malnutrition or neglect. Families were not always notified, and burial records were poorly kept. Many believed that dozens of patients were buried in unmarked graves on the hospital grounds, their names lost to history. This constant suffering created an atmosphere of fear and despair. Paranormal investigators today believe this emotional energy never faded. They claim the pain, confusion, and loneliness experienced by patients became embedded in the building itself. By the time reforms began to change mental health care, the damage had already been done. What was meant to be a place of healing had become a place of endurance, and for many who lived and died there, the story may not have ended when their lives did. By the mid-20th century, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum was falling apart from the inside out. New mental health laws and growing public awareness began to expose the inhumane conditions within large state institutions. Medications slowly replaced long-term confinement, and community-based care became the preferred approach. As patient numbers declined, entire wards of the massive building were left silent and unused. The hospital officially closed in the mid-1990s after more than a century of operation. When the last patients were transferred out, staff members reported an unsettling stillness that settled over the building. Rooms were left with furniture still in place, medical equipment abandoned, and personal belongings forgotten. Time seemed to stop the moment the doors were locked for the final time. After closure, the property changed hands several times. Developers debated turning it into apartments or offices, but the cost of renovation and the building's dark reputation made progress difficult. Decades of neglect allowed water damage, mold, and decay to spread through the structure. Long corridors echoed with nothing but wind and creaking floors, giving the asylum an even more ominous presence. It was during this period of abandonment that reports of strange activity began to increase. Local residents claimed to see lights flickering in windows despite there being no power. Others reported hearing voices carried on the night air, coming from the empty building. Former employees also came forward, sharing stories of unexplained footsteps and doors opening on their own during the final years of operation. Preservation efforts eventually stepped in, saving the asylum from demolition. Historical tours were introduced, allowing the public to walk through areas once closed off. These tours brought new attention, but they also led to an increase in documented paranormal reports. Visitors described sudden cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and faint crying sounds deep within the wards. Researchers studying the site believe the transition from active hospital to abandoned structure played a major role in its haunted reputation. The sudden silence after decades of human suffering created a stark contrast, one that many believe amplified lingering energy. Whether paranormal or psychological, the atmosphere inside the asylum is undeniably heavy. As interest in the location grew, so did its legend. What was once a symbol of outdated medicine became known as one of the most haunted places in West Virginia. And as more people entered its halls, the stories followed them back out, refusing to fade into the past. As public access to the Trans-Allegheny Asylum increased, so did the number of documented paranormal encounters. Tour guides, historians, and overnight investigators began carefully recording incidents rather than relying solely on word of mouth. These accounts consistently pointed to specific areas of the building where activity appeared strongest, suggesting patterns rather than random experiences. One of the most frequently mentioned locations is the children's ward. Visitors often report hearing what sounds like quiet footsteps, soft laughter, or a child's voice calling out from empty rooms. Some claim to feel a sudden emotional heaviness in this section, describing overwhelming sadness without any clear cause. These reactions are often shared by multiple people independently, even when they are unaware of the ward's history. Another focal point of activity is the long central corridors that stretch through the main structure. Witnesses have described shadowy figures crossing doorways or standing at the far ends of hallways, only to vanish when approached. Motion detectors and audio recorders used during investigations have captured unexplained sounds. including knocking and distant shuffling when no one else was present in the area. Former operating rooms have also gained a reputation for unsettling encounters. Investigators have reported sudden temperature drops and equipment malfunctioning without explanation. Some claim to have felt physical sensations, such as light touches on their arms or pressure on their shoulders, while standing completely alone. These experiences often occur without warning and end just as abruptly. Staff members who now maintain the building have shared their own experiences as well. Reports include doors that refuse to stay closed, alarms triggered in unused sections, and the sound of voices over radios when no one is speaking. These incidents are taken seriously, as they are logged during routine work hours rather than guided tours or investigations. Skeptics point to the building's age, acoustics, and environmental conditions as possible explanations. However, even experienced investigators who enter with a critical mindset admit the asylum presents anomalies that are difficult to dismiss entirely. The consistency of reports across decades adds to the mystery rather than resolving it. By this point in the asylum's story, the focus shifts from history alone to something more unsettling. The question is no longer whether strange events occur, but why they seem so concentrated within these walls. And as more evidence is gathered, the line between past suffering and present presence grows increasingly thin. Today, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum stands as both a historical landmark and one of West Virginia's most discussed paranormal locations. Preservation efforts have transformed the decaying structure into a place of education, allowing visitors to explore the building while learning about the realities of mental health care in earlier centuries. Yet even with its new purpose, the asylum continues to carry an atmosphere that many describe as deeply unsettling. Paranormal tourism has become a significant part of the site's identity. Guided history tours focus on documented events and architectural details, while after-hours investigations attract those hoping to experience something unexplained firsthand. Many visitors report leaving with a sense that the building feels aware, a description that appears repeatedly in written accounts and guest testimonials. Historians and skeptics continue to challenge paranormal interpretations, emphasizing the psychological power of suggestion and the emotional weight of the asylum's past. They argue that long corridors, low lighting, and natural settling noises can influence perception. Despite these explanations, some encounters remain difficult to classify, particularly those reported by individuals unfamiliar with the asylum's reputation before arriving. What makes the Trans-Allegheny Asylum especially compelling is the way its history and haunting narratives intersect. Thousands of patients lived and died within its walls, many under conditions that would be considered unacceptable today. For some, the reported activity feels less like a haunting and more like an echo of unresolved trauma lingering in the environment. Researchers studying environmental factors, such as infrasound and electromagnetic fields, have suggested that these elements may play a role in the sensations people experience inside the building. However, no single theory has been able to account for the wide range of reported phenomena. Each investigation seems to raise as many questions as it answers. The asylum's story ultimately resists a definitive conclusion. Whether the experiences are paranormal or psychological, the reactions they provoke are real and deeply personal. Visitors often describe a lingering sense of unease that follows them long after they leave the grounds. As the final chapter in this chilling tale, the Trans-Allegheny Asylum remains a place where history refuses to stay silent. Its walls still stand, its halls remain empty, and its mysteries continue to invite those brave enough to step inside and decide for themselves what truly lingers in the dark. The Appalachian Mountains are old, older than memory, older than most stories passed down through families in small towns. For generations, people living in these hills have talked about strange lights in the sky, odd sounds in the woods, and moments that never quite made sense. West Virginia in particular, has long been a place where folklore and real life seem to blur together, especially after dark. In the early 1950s, fear and curiosity already hung heavy in the air across the United States. This was the Cold War era, when people watched the skies closely and worried about threats they could not see. Stories of flying objects and unexplained lights were spreading fast, fueled by newspapers, radio, and word of mouth. Against this uneasy backdrop, one small town in Braxton County would soon become part of American paranormal history. On a clear September evening in the year 1952, residents across several states noticed something unusual overhead. A bright object streaked through the sky, glowing like fire as it moved fast and low. Reports of this strange light came in from West Virginia and nearby states, all describing the same sudden flash that did not behave like a normal airplane. To many, it looked as if something had fallen from the sky. In the quiet town of Flatwoods, nestled among wooded hills and narrow roads, the fiery sight did not feel distant or harmless. It appeared close, as if it had landed somewhere just beyond the edge of town. For the people who lived there, the mountains were familiar, but that night they felt different, still and watchful. As darkness settled in, curiosity began to turn into concern. What no one in Flatwoods could have known at the time was that this single event would spark one of the most famous Appalachian legends ever recorded. What started as a strange light in the sky would soon become a story of fear, mystery, and a figure that many believe still haunts the history of West Virginia. And this was only the beginning. Not long after the strange object streaked across the sky, several people in Flatwoods decided to investigate. Among them were local boys Edward May and Fred May, along with their mother, Kathleen May. They were joined by Gene Lemon, a member of the West Virginia National Guard, who brought a flashlight and some basic training, but no clear idea of what they might find. Together, they followed the direction where the light appeared to have come down, heading toward a wooded hill just outside town. As they climbed, the air reported it grew thick and heavy, carrying a sharp, metallic smell that burned the nose and throat. Near the top of the hill, they noticed a pulsing red light between the trees. At first, it seemed stationary, almost as if something was watching them. When Gene Lemon shined his flashlight toward the glow, what they claimed to see would become the heart of the legend. Standing near a large tree was a tall figure, estimated to be several feet high, with a dark body and a strange spade-shaped hood or head. Witnesses described glowing red eyes set deep within the shape, staring directly at them. The figure did not move like a person or an animal, and its outline appeared unnatural against the forest backdrop. For those present, the sight was immediate and terrifying. Panic broke out almost instantly. Kathleen May reportedly screamed and collapsed, while the others fled down the hill in fear. As they ran, they claimed a mist of fog rolled through the area, causing burning sensations in their eyes and throats. Later that night, several members of the group experienced nausea and irritation, symptoms that would be documented in local reports. By the time authorities and reporters arrived, whatever the group had seen was gone, no creature was found, and no clear physical evidence remained on the hill. Still, the witnesses stood by their story, insisting that what they encountered was no ordinary animal, person, or trick of the light. What they described would soon be given a name by the media, and the quiet town of Flatwoods would never quite shake what happened on that hillside. By the morning after the encounter, word of what happened in Flatwoods had already begun to spread beyond Braxton County. Local newspapers picked up the story, followed quickly by regional and national outlets. Headlines described a mysterious monster and a possible unidentified flying object, turning a small rural incident into a national curiosity almost overnight. Reporters traveled to the area, interviewing witnesses and photographing the wooded hillside where the sighting occurred. State and local officials also took interest, though their reactions were far more cautious. members of the West Virginia National Guard reviewed the claims, but found no evidence of a crash or military aircraft in the area. Law enforcement officers searched the hill and surrounding woods, noting disturbed ground, but nothing that clearly supported the presence of a creature. No unusual materials, tracks, or mechanical debris were officially confirmed. Scientific voices soon entered the discussion, offering possible explanations. Some suggested the reported creature may have been a barn owl, perched in a tree, its eyes shine in silhouette distorted by fear, darkness, and the beam of a flashlight. Others proposed that the burning sensations experienced by the witnesses could have been caused by natural gases, such as those released from nearby vegetation or soil. These theories aim to explain the event without invoking something unknown. Despite these explanations, public fascination only grew. Radio programs and magazines dedicated to unexplained phenomena began referencing the Flatwoods case as one of the most unusual sightings in the Appalachian region. The combination of a fiery object in the sky and a strange being on the ground set it apart from typical reports of either category alone. For the people of Flatwoods, the sudden attention was overwhelming. The town became associated with the incident in a way that was impossible to escape. While officials leaned toward ordinary explanations, the lack of a definitive answer ensured that the story would linger, suspended between folklore and mystery, waiting to evolve even further. As years passed, the Flatwoods incident shifted from a shocking news story into a defining piece of Appalachian folklore. What began as a single night of confusion and fear slowly became a symbol of the unknown, deeply woven into the identity of Braxton County. Rather than fading away, the legend grew stronger with time, passed down through retellings and local tradition. The Flatwoods Monster became one of the earliest American cryptid cases to gain nationwide recognition. Unlike many legends that rely on secondhand accounts, this story involved multiple witnesses who consistently stood by their experiences. Their continued refusal to recant kept the legend alive and gave it lasting credibility in the eyes of believers and researchers alike. During the late 1900s, interest in cryptozoology and unidentified flying objects surged across the United States. Researchers began revisiting older cases, including Flatwoods, searching for patterns and overlooked details. The event was frequently referenced in books, documentaries, and lectures focused on Appalachian mysteries, cementing its place in the broader history of unexplained phenomena. Within the town itself, the legend slowly transformed into a point of recognition rather than fear. Flatwoods embraced its unusual history, using the story to draw visitors curious about the encounter. The monster's image appeared in local art, souvenirs, and community events, turning a moment of terror into a lasting cultural marker. Even as scientific explanations continued to circulate, the legend refused to settle into a single interpretation. For some, it remained a case of mistaken identity and natural causes. For others, it stood as evidence of something far stranger. This divide ensured that the Flatwoods Monster would remain part of the conversation, not as a solved case, but as a mystery that defined a place and its past. Decades after the encounter, the Flatwoods Monster remains one of the most enduring mysteries in Appalachian history. Unlike many legends that lose attention as witnesses pass away, this story continues to resurface with each new generation. The original event has never been officially disproven, allowing speculation and belief to coexist without a final conclusion. Modern investigators often approach the case with fresh perspectives, rather than seeking definitive answers. Advances in atmospheric science, astronomy, and psychology have provided new frameworks for understanding what the witnesses may have experienced. Yet, even with updated knowledge, no explanation has fully addressed every reported detail, leaving gaps that continue to fuel debate. The Flatwoods Monster also holds a unique place in discussions about rural encounters with the unknown. The story highlights how isolated communities interpret rare and frightening events without immediate access to outside information. This context has become an important part of why the case is studied, not just as a mystery, but as a reflection of life in mid-20th century Appalachia. Today, the legend lives on through storytelling, research, and cultural memory, rather than new sightings. It stands as a reminder that not all historical mysteries are meant to be solved. Some persist because they capture a moment when fear, wonder, and the unexplained briefly collided. As one of Appalachia's most famous legends, the Flatwoods Monster continues to challenge the boundary between folklore and reality. Its lasting power lies not in what it was, but in what it represents. The human need to make sense of the unknown, even when the answers remain just out of reach. Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, is a small town surrounded by the quiet beauty of the Appalachian Mountains. It sits at the place where the Shenandoah and Potomac rivers meet. Though the town may seem peaceful today, its past is filled with conflict, tragedy, and stories that still haunt its streets. In the early days, the town grew quickly because of its location and its connection to the railroad. But it was the year 1859 that would change Harpers Ferry forever. That year, a man named John Brown led a violent raid on the town's federal arsenal. His goal was to arm enslaved people and start a rebellion to set them free. The plan failed, and many people died, including townspeople, Brown's men, and a man named Dangerfield Newby, who had joined Brown to try and free his wife and children from slavery. John Brown was later captured, put on trial, and hanged. His ghost is said to still wander the streets of Harpers Ferry. The raid was just the beginning of Harpers Ferry's dark history. During the Civil War, from the year 1861 to 1865, the town was taken over again and again by both Union and Confederate troops. One reason was because the town was in a key location between the North and South. Another reason was its railroad and river connections, which made it important for moving soldiers and supplies. This back and forth battle left behind more than destroyed buildings. Locals say that it left behind ghosts. Many soldiers died in and around Harpers Ferry, and some believe their spirits never left. On quiet nights, visitors walking along High Street have reported hearing marching feet or the faint beat of drums, as if a ghostly army still moves through the town. One of the oldest buildings in town is St. Peter's Catholic Church, built in the year 1833. During the war, it served as a hospital for wounded soldiers. A young man who was hurt in battle once collapsed on the lawn outside, waiting for help. Just as he was carried through the doorway, he whispered, "Thank God, I am saved," before dying. To this day, people who stand near the church claim to hear his words carried by the wind. Another well-known figure from Harpers Ferry's past is Father Michael Costello. He served as the priest at St. Peter's Church from the year 1857 to 1867. He stayed in town during the Civil War, risking his life to care for the sick and the wounded. His spirit has also been seen walking the grounds of the church. These are just a few of the true and chilling stories that show how deep the town's haunted history runs. Harpers Ferry is not just a place of old buildings and scenic views. It's a place where the past still lingers, in the wind, in the footsteps echoing down empty streets, and in the flicker of shadows seen out of the corner of your eye. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at the ghostly figures who continue to haunt the shops, homes, and alleys of Harpers Ferry. Some of them were victims of tragedy, while others seem to be watching over secrets they took to the grave. Not far from the busy streets and preserved buildings of Harpers Ferry stands St. Peter's Catholic Church, a tall and quiet structure that has overlooked the town since it was completed in the year 1833. During the Civil War, the church was one of the few buildings that remained mostly intact, spared from destruction, while so many others were torn down or burned. But today, Many visitors say something else remains, something unseen. The most well-known spirit, said to be tied to the church, is Father Michael Costello. He was the priest at St. Peter's during one of the most dangerous times in Harpers Ferry's history, from the year 1857 to the year 1867. That meant he was there during the raid led by John Brown, and also during the many battles that swept through the town in the Civil War. Father Costello refused to leave the town, choosing to stay and offer comfort and support to those in need. Some believe his spirit never left. His ghost is said to be seen walking around the church, especially in the early morning or late evening hours, still keeping watch over the place he once served. But Father Costello isn't the only ghost said to linger around the church. There's another story, even more haunting. During the Civil War, St. Peter's was used as a hospital, and one young soldier lay outside the church, mortally wounded. As he bled on the grass, he was finally picked up and carried through the doorway. Witnesses at the time said he whispered, "Thank God, I am saved," just before dying. Today, some visitors say they still hear those words spoken softly near the steps, though no one is there. Just above the town is Camp Hill, once a large open space where soldiers made their camps during the war. At first, both Union and Confederate troops camped down in the bottomlands closer to the rivers, but sickness spread quickly there. Many soldiers grew ill and died from the poor conditions. To try and stop the spread, the armies moved their camps higher up onto Camp Hill. Even though the tents and soldiers are long gone, many people claim you can still hear the sounds of the past. Some say they've heard marching footsteps echoing down High Street, as if a group of soldiers is still on parade. Others have reported hearing the steady beat of a drum, the kind used to call soldiers to order or prepare for battle. Ghost tours in the area often stop near Camp Hill, where visitors are told to listen closely. Some have walked away, convinced they heard more than just the wind in the trees. The shadows of those soldiers, young, scared, and far from home, seem to remain long after the battles ended. And like so many places in Harpers Ferry, the peaceful views hide a past that never fully let go. Stay with us for part 3, where we'll explore the haunted legends tied to the Harpers Ferry train tracks, a burning woman known only as Jenny, and a tragic soul still wandering the narrow path called Hog Alley. Just beyond the edges of town, the railroad cuts through Harpers Ferry like a scar from the past. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad first reached the town in the year 1834, bringing with it a wave of progress, and eventually, tragedy. Over the years, the tracks have seen countless train cars pass through, but not every journey ended safely. One of the most chilling hauntings near the tracks involves a mysterious figure, often seen walking alongside the railroad bridge late at night. Witnesses describe the ghost as a man wearing old-fashioned clothing from the 19th century. He is sometimes seen holding a lantern and pacing slowly along the rails before vanishing into thin air. Some believe this is the spirit of a former railroad worker who was struck by a passing train while inspecting the line. According to local accounts, the man had been warned not to work so close to the tracks in the dark, but he ignored the warnings and paid the price. Now his lantern is said to appear just before certain trains pass through, as if he is still checking the line for safety. Another unsettling story tied to the area near the tracks involves the ghost of a woman known only as Jenny. Her story goes back to the mid-19th century. Jenny lived in one of the houses near the edge of town, in a neighborhood that bordered the hillside. When the Civil War swept through Harpers Ferry, the town was placed under strict curfews at night. Anyone caught outside after hours risked being mistaken for a threat. According to surviving written accounts, Jenny left her home during the curfew to check on a friend. She carried a lantern to light her way through the dark streets, but soldiers stationed nearby spotted her, and not recognizing her, fired their weapons. Her lantern shattered, and Jenny was caught in the flames. Her death was a mistake, but it was a brutal one. Today, her ghost is said to appear suddenly on the hillside or near the tracks engulfed in glowing flames. Some visitors report seeing a burning figure darting through the trees before disappearing into smoke. Others say they hear the sound of crackling fire, even when there is no flame in sight. Her story remains one of the most tragic tales from Harpers Ferry, and one of the most unforgettable. Not far from Jenny's final path is a narrow stone walkway called Hog Alley. This tiny street, hidden between old brick buildings, was once used by townspeople to move between the lower and upper parts of town. In modern times, it's known for being unusually cold, even on warm summer nights. Visitors walking through Hog Alley often report sudden chills, whispers from unseen sources, and the feeling of being watched. Some believe the alley is haunted by the ghost of a young boy who lived nearby during the late 1800s. He is said to have run through the alley one evening, frightened by an argument at home, only to be caught in a rock slide that crushed the back wall of a nearby building. The boy's cries for help went unheard, and he died before rescuers found him. People who walk through Hog Alley today sometimes say they hear a child's footsteps running ahead of them, or feel a tug at their sleeve when no one is around. In Harpers Ferry, even the smallest streets and quietest hillsides hold memories that refuse to fade. And as you make your way through the town, you may find that the past is not as distant as it seems. Next, we'll explore the haunted ruins of the Lockwood House, the lingering presence of Civil War nurses, and a secret room that was once used for something darker than prayer. Perched high on Camp Hill, the Lockwood House is one of the oldest remaining structures in Harpers Ferry. It was constructed in the year 1848 by the United States government and served several purposes over the decades, including housing for military officers and their families. During the American Civil War, the house was used as a Union headquarters and later as a hospital. The building's long history of war, illness, and death has made it one of the most haunted places in the town. Many who visit the Lockwood House report feelings of unease, sudden dizziness, or the sensation of being watched. The second floor in particular is known for its cold spots and strange shadows. According to official historical records, wounded soldiers were treated in these upper rooms during the war, and not all of them survived. Some historians believe that the trauma and fear experienced by those men may have left a lasting energy behind. One of the most frequently reported ghostly figures at the Lockwood House is a woman believed to be a wartime nurse. She is usually described wearing a dark dress with a white apron, her hair pulled back neatly. Several visitors and staff have claimed to see her standing silently at the end of the hallway, vanishing when approached. Others have heard soft footsteps and the rustle of fabric, as if someone in long skirts is moving through the empty rooms. Another strange area in the Lockwood House is the basement. During the late 19th century, the basement was converted into a storage area, but visitors began reporting strange occurrences there by the early 20th century. One consistent account is that of a locked door that leads to a small chamber built into the foundation. This chamber, according to town records, may have been used for private meetings or religious gatherings, but some local stories suggest it served a more secretive and possibly sinister purpose. Paranormal investigators who have studied the house over the years have recorded unexplained temperature drops, flickering lights, and even the sound of quiet chanting from this hidden room. While no evidence of ritual activity has ever been proven, the stories continue to circulate, especially among residents who live nearby. Another lesser-known haunted location tied to the Lockwood House is the path behind it, which once led to a military encampment. This trail, now overgrown with brush and nearly hidden, has been the site of several ghost sightings. People have reported seeing shadowy figures darting between the trees, as well as hearing distant shouting, sometimes followed by complete silence. One documented sighting, from the year 1972, described a group of hikers who encountered what they believed was a Civil War-era soldier standing in the clearing. When they attempted to speak to him, the figure turned and vanished. The hikers described the encounter as sudden and deeply unsettling, leaving them too shaken to return to the area. The haunted history of Harpers Ferry is not just confined to its buildings or streets, it's woven into the very ground. From secret rooms to vanishing soldiers, the town remains a place where the past never fully disappears. Whether you're drawn by history or the unexplained, Harpers Ferry is a place that leaves a lasting impression, one built not just on stone and timber, but on memories, mysteries, and the shadows that still move quietly through its hills. Point Pleasant is a small town in West Virginia where the Ohio River bends and the land feels calm and ordinary. In the mid-1960s, life there moved slowly. People knew their neighbors, nights were dark and quiet, and nothing about the town suggested it would become part of one of America's most chilling haunted histories. That changed during a cold night in November of 1966, when fear entered the area in a way no one could explain. Just outside town sat an abandoned military site locals avoided after dark. It was once used during World War II to store explosives, but by the 1960s, it had fallen into decay. Cracked concrete domes, rusted fences, and thick weeds covered the land. The place already felt wrong, even before anything strange was seen there. Many locals said the area felt heavy, silent, and unsettling, especially at night. Late one evening, a car passed through this deserted zone. As headlights swept across the road, something tall and unnatural appeared near the edge of the pavement. Witnesses later described a large human-shaped figure, far taller than an average person. Its body looked solid and gray, not like an animal they recognized. What stood out most were its wings, folded tightly against its back, and two glowing red eyes that did not blink or move like normal eyes. The moment the car sped away, the figure unfolded its wings and rose into the air. Instead of flapping like a bird, it glided smoothly above the road. The witnesses said it followed the vehicle with ease, staying close even as the car reached extreme speed. The red eyes stayed fixed on them the entire time, shining brightly through the darkness. When the car finally reached the edge of town, the winged figure vanished without a sound. Shaken and terrified, the witnesses immediately reported what they had seen. They were calm enough to speak clearly, but visibly scared. There was no sign of joking or exaggeration. Law enforcement took the report seriously, noting that all involved told the same story. By morning, word spread fast. What began as a single encounter quickly became something larger. Locals whispered about a strange creature near the old military site. Fear settled in quietly, like a shadow hanging over the town. No one knew it yet, but this was only the beginning of a 13-month stretch that would turn Point Pleasant into one of the most talked-about haunted locations in American history. After the first report became public, Point Pleasant did not return to normal. Instead, more people began coming forward with their own strange experiences. Within days, residents near the old military land reported seeing a tall winged shape standing near roads, fields, and tree lines. These sightings often happened late at night, when the area was quiet and dark, making the encounters feel even more intense and personal. Several people described the same unsettling details without knowing each other. They spoke of a large figure that did not move like a bird or a person. It was often seen standing still, watching, before suddenly lifting into the air. Many said the eyes were the most frightening part, glowing red and fixed, creating a deep feeling of fear that lingered long after the sighting ended. Local newspapers quickly picked up the story, and once it reached print, reports increased even more. Some sightings came from people driving near the river, while others claimed to see the figure perched on buildings or hovering above open ground. The descriptions stayed consistent, which only deepened the concern. Residents began avoiding certain roads and refused to go near the old military site after sunset. strange events started happening alongside the sightings. People reported hearing odd screeching sounds late at night, coming from the direction of the abandoned land. Others described sudden feelings of panic, dizziness, or the sense of being watched when they were near areas where the creature had been seen. These experiences made the town feel tense, as if something unseen was moving through it. Law enforcement looked into several reports, but could not find physical evidence that explained what people were seeing. No tracks, feathers, or signs of an animal were found. Despite this, the witnesses remained firm in their accounts. Many were longtime residents who were known to be reliable and calm under pressure. As weeks passed, the sightings did not fade. Instead, they became part of daily conversation. Parents warned children to stay close to home, and neighbors checked in on each other more often. What frightened people most was not just the creature itself, but the feeling that it appeared without reason and disappeared just as easily. By the end of that year, Point Pleasant no longer felt like a quiet river town. It felt watched, unsettled, and surrounded by a mystery no one could explain. As the months went on, reports of unusual occurrences in Point Pleasant began to expand beyond just sightings of the Mothman. Residents described hearing eerie noises in the dead of night, metallic screeches, high-pitched wails, and the flapping of enormous wings, even when no wind stirred. Some people claimed that their animals acted strangely, barking or hissing at empty spaces, or refusing to go outside after dusk. A few even reported that household electronics would flicker or malfunction without explanation, televisions going to static, and radios emitting strange, high-pitched tones at random times. Witnesses often described feeling an intense sense of unease or dread when near areas associated with the sightings, such as the old TNT military site or open fields by the Ohio River. Several reported seeing the glowing red eyes watching from the tree line or perched atop telephone poles, remaining fixed on them for long moments before disappearing into the darkness. People who drove past the site at night sometimes felt their car headlights flicker, as if something unseen was reflecting or blocking the beams. Some of the more unusual encounters involved fleeting glimpses of the creature's wings spreading wide, casting enormous shadows over the ground and buildings. Others recounted seeing it glide silently above the river, moving with unnatural speed and precision. The consistency in these accounts, height estimates, wing size, glowing eyes, and behavior gave the stories a sense of credibility that unnerved even the most skeptical locals. The town's sense of normalcy was further shaken by reports of people experiencing vivid dreams or strange premonitions, often involving collapse or danger near the river or bridge. While these accounts were anecdotal, they were detailed and repeated enough to be noticed by local journalists and investigators documenting the phenomenon. Many who experienced these dreams described waking in a cold sweat or feeling an unshakable anxiety throughout the day. Investigators and paranormal enthusiasts began visiting Point Pleasant to try to document the phenomenon. They set up cameras, took photographs, and walked the old TNT grounds at night, hoping to capture proof of the creature. Some claimed to record unexplained lights or shadows, while others felt a sudden drop in temperature or an invisible presence following them. Despite no physical evidence being recovered, these experiences contributed to the town's growing reputation as a center of paranormal activity. By mid-1967, the legend of the Mothman was no longer just a story told among locals. It had become a widely reported paranormal event. Visitors came to Point Pleasant hoping to witness the creature for themselves, and the phenomenon drew attention from newspapers and investigators across the country. The town was now a magnet for the strange, and its residents could no longer dismiss the nightly reports as coincidence or rumor. People began to wonder whether the Mothman was more than a cryptid. Could it be a warning, a supernatural presence, or something entirely unexplainable? The fear and curiosity surrounding it made the town tense, as if everyone knew that the story was far from over. Each sighting added another layer to the mystery, and the line between reality and legend grew thinner with every report. By late 1967, the unease in Point Pleasant had reached a peak. Locals noticed that the sightings of the Mothman were often near areas of infrastructure and activity, particularly the Silver Bridge, which connected Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. Residents described seeing the glowing red eyes of the creature perched on the bridge's trusses or gliding silently above the river below, often at dusk when traffic was heavy. The bridge itself, built in the early 1920s, had long been known as structurally challenging, but the presence of the Mothman seemed to make people view it with a new, almost superstitious fear. Some townspeople reported feeling an instinctive sense of danger whenever near the Silver Bridge, describing chills, nausea, and the sensation of being watched. A few even said that while driving across, headlights would momentarily flicker or go out entirely, leaving them in brief darkness, only for the Mothman's red eyes to appear in their peripheral vision. Workers on the bridge, performing routine maintenance, claimed that tools would inexplicably fall or machinery would behave unpredictably when they noticed a shadowy form in the sky. The growing pattern of sightings linked to the bridge intensified speculation among journalists and paranormal researchers. People began to theorize that the creature might be more than a cryptid. It could be a warning of impending disaster. Local papers ran stories suggesting that the Mothman might appear before accidents, giving the legend a chilling sense of prophecy. Residents started to take unusual precautions. Families avoided traveling at night near the bridge, and some even claimed to see fleeting glimpses of wings reflected in their rearview mirrors, as if urging them to turn back. Investigators documenting these phenomena noticed another recurring detail. On nights of particularly clear sightings, witnesses reported hearing low, mournful sounds, described as a cross between an owl's cry and metal scraping. These auditory experiences were often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature, leaving a foggy breath in the cool night air. Paranormal teams would later measure unusual electromagnetic readings in the vicinity of the TNT site and the bridge approaches, though results were inconclusive. Still, these occurrences reinforced the eerie connection between the Mothman and the bridge. The tension reached its climax on December 15th, 1967. That afternoon, during a rush hour, a structural failure caused the Silver Bridge to collapse into the Ohio River. In an instant, dozens of vehicles and lives were swallowed by the icy waters below. While engineers later attributed the collapse to stress corrosion in a single eyebar, many locals recalled seeing the Mothman in the days prior, and for them, the connection between the creature and the disaster was undeniable. After the tragedy, an eerie silence fell over Point Pleasant. Sightings of the Mothman abruptly stopped. Witnesses who had previously reported nightly appearances no longer saw the glowing eyes or massive wings in the sky. The sudden disappearance only deepened the mystery, leading some to believe that the creature's role as a harbinger had been fulfilled. The event cemented the Mothman's place in paranormal lore. For years afterward, investigators, authors, and enthusiasts returned to the town to study the phenomenon, exploring the old TNT grounds and the riverbanks for any sign of the winged creature. The story of the Mothman became inseparable from the history of the Silver Bridge, blending tragedy, fear, and legend into one chilling narrative that continues to captivate those drawn to haunted history and paranormal mysteries. Today, the Mothman of Point Pleasant is more than just a story. It has become a cultural icon and a central piece of the town's identity. A 12-foot-tall stainless steel statue now stands in the middle of town, its glowing red eyes a reminder of the creature that terrified residents over 50 years ago. The Mothman Museum, located on Main Street, preserves witness sketches, newspaper clippings, and first-hand accounts, along with artifacts from the 1999 and 2002 films inspired by the legend. Every September, the town hosts the annual Mothman Festival, drawing thousands of paranormal enthusiasts from around the world to explore the TNT site, attend lectures, and celebrate the legend through tours, merchandise, and themed events. Researchers and paranormal investigators continue to study the phenomenon, even decades later. Many emphasize the consistency of eyewitness descriptions. The tall, gray, humanoid figure with a wingspan of 10 feet and glowing red eyes. Some investigators focus on environmental factors, noting that the region's dense forests, river fog, and uneven terrain could have contributed to optical illusions or misidentifications of large birds. Others point to patterns of mass hysteria, suggesting that once initial reports spread through the media, small-town fear amplified additional sightings. Skeptical explanations remain grounded in biology. Birds such as sandhill cranes, great blue herons, or snowy owls have all been proposed as likely sources of some sightings, particularly when seen at night in poor visibility. The reddish coloring around their eyes or reflective surfaces could easily appear as glowing in low light. Yet, no explanation accounts for all reported experiences, including the auditory phenomena, temperature drops, and electromagnetic anomalies that some paranormal teams recorded at the TNT site. Paranormal and cryptid theorists, meanwhile, suggest more unusual possibilities. Some speculate the Mothman could be an interdimensional being, briefly crossing into our world to deliver warnings. Others propose extraterrestrial origins or a spiritual entity tied to the Ohio River region's deep folklore. The reports of strange lights in the sky, encounters with mysterious figures, and the predictive nature of the sightings only add layers to the enduring mystery. The legend has left a permanent mark on Point Pleasant. Local businesses have embraced the story, while the town's tourism industry thrives on curiosity about the Mothman. More importantly, the creature continues to inspire countless articles, documentaries, and books exploring the line between folklore, the unexplained, and the paranormal. Even today, some residents and visitors claim to feel an unshakable sense of being watched when exploring the old TNT area or crossing the Ohio River near the original Silver Bridge site. Others report fleeting glimpses of movement in the shadows, or that faint red glow that once struck fear into an entire community. Whether these experiences are psychological, environmental, or truly paranormal, they keep the legend alive. The Mothman story also highlights the human fascination with omens, warnings, and the unknown. It is a rare case where a cryptid is not just a creature of the woods, but a symbol of foreboding that intersected with real historical events. For many, the Mothman represents the intersection of fear, mystery, and tragedy. Reminder that some stories linger in our culture because they touch something deeper than mere sighting. For 13 months in 1966 and 1967, Point Pleasant was haunted by something it could not explain. The red-eyed figure in the darkness remains an unsolved mystery, one that blends true accounts, local folklore, and paranormal intrigue. Whether viewed as a giant bird, a mass hallucination, or a supernatural messenger, the Mothman of Point Pleasant endures as one of the most chilling and compelling legends in American haunted history. Its presence is still felt in the town, and its story continues to inspire curiosity, fear, and wonder among those drawn to the unexplained. Did you know that long before the sound of laughter and carnival music echoed across Lake Shawnee, the land held a much darker past? Back in the year 1785, a settler named Mitchell Clay moved his family to what would one day become Princeton, West Virginia. He and his wife raised 14 children on an 800-acre farm. But peace didn't last. One tragic day, while Mitchell was out hunting, a group of Native Americans attacked the homestead. They took and ended the lives of 2 of Clay's children. A third, his young son Ezekiel, was taken captive and later killed in a village called Chillicothe. When Mitchell returned and found what had happened, he swore revenge. With the help of other settlers, he tracked down and killed several members of the raiding party. From that moment on, the land seemed to carry a heavy weight, like it remembered. Over a century later, in the year 1926, a businessman named Conley T. Snidow saw an opportunity in the peaceful meadows by the lake. He built an amusement park, complete with a Ferris wheel, swing ride, swimming pool, racetrack, and even cabins for overnight guests. It became a gathering place for local families, especially coal miners and their children. But even the joy didn't last. During the park's early years, 2 children drowned in the lake. Then in 1966, a little girl was killed on the swing ride. That accident marked a turning point. The park failed a health inspection soon after and was shut down in 1967. For nearly 2 decades, it sat in silence until a familiar face from its past returned. Gaylord White had once worked at the park and loved it. In 1985, he bought the land and tried to bring it back to life. He reopened it in the summer of 1987, but rising insurance costs forced him to close it again just 1 year later. Still, Gaylord wasn't ready to give up on the place. But then his workers made a discovery that would change everything. While digging for future construction, they uncovered human bones. At first, it was just a few artifacts, arrowheads, broken pottery. But soon, entire skeletons began to surface. Archaeologists from Marshall University were called in. What they found was shocking. 13 graves, most of them children. They realized the park had been built on a Native American burial ground. The land, already marked by past tragedy, now revealed its oldest secrets. And that's where the strange activity started. After the park shut down for good in the year 1988, the laughter disappeared. But something else seemed to take its place. Visitors and locals started reporting strange things, sounds, sightings, and feelings that couldn't be explained. The most well-known ghost said to haunt Lake Shawnee is a little girl in a white dress. Witnesses often spot her near the old swing set where she died decades earlier. But what's even more unsettling is how that swing still moves on windless days. One of the swings is tied with a red ribbon, but she's believed to prefer another one, the one with an owl ornament hanging from it. People have watched the owl slowly turn and twist on days when the trees above don't move at all, and sometimes the owl just stops cold, as if someone had dropped it or let it go. And she's not the only one who might still be around. There are stories about a boy who drowned in the lake. People say his spirit tends to linger near the front of the park, almost like he's standing guard. A white plastic pinwheel is attached to a rundown ticket booth nearby, and just like the owl, it sometimes spins when there's no wind. One woman was recorded asking the pinwheel to move faster, then slower, then to stop, and it responded each time, even though the air was still. For some, that was enough proof that someone was listening. The swing set and the lake aren't the only places with activity. One visitor once got locked inside the old ticket booth. The problem? The booth doesn't have a working lock. Others have heard whispering or footsteps behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. And at night, it's not uncommon to hear the sound of children laughing in the distance, even when the park is empty. Today, the park remains mostly untouched, with rusting rides and broken down buildings scattered across the overgrown grounds. Each year during the Halloween season, small groups gather for guided tours. Flashlights flicker, shadows move, and strange sounds echo through the trees. Some people leave believing. Others leave with more questions than answers. As the years passed and nature took over the remains of Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, curiosity only grew. Paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers from across the country came to explore the abandoned site. Some hoped for answers. Others simply wanted proof. And one photograph might be the closest thing they ever got. Sometime in the early 2000s, a visitor captured what has become one of the most talked about images connected to Lake Shawnee. It was a photo of the old Ferris wheel, empty, rusted, and long out of use. But in one of the seats, a figure appeared. It looked like the shape of a person, sitting completely still. No one was on the ride at the time. The park was closed, and the Ferris wheel had not turned in years. People have examined the image again and again. Some say it's just a trick of the light or a shadow. Others believe it shows the spirit of someone who never left the park. The figure is faint, but the shape is there, and it's enough to unsettle even the most skeptical viewer. To this day, no one has been able to fully explain it. That photo isn't the only strange evidence found at Lake Shawnee. Paranormal investigators have brought equipment like EMF meters, thermal cameras, and audio recorders. During one investigation, a team recorded unexplained voices using a method called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. In the recordings, whispering could be heard, along with soft giggles and what sounded like a child calling out from the distance. There were no children present. Another investigator captured a shadowy form moving between the trees just beyond the swing set. When they reviewed the footage later, the figure had no clear features, no face, no color, just a human-like shape that vanished after a few seconds. It didn't match the movements or height of anyone in the group that day. And sometimes the park responds in ways no equipment can explain. Tour guides have reported sudden drops in temperature near certain areas, especially close to the lake and around the Ferris wheel. One guide said her flashlight flickered and died the moment she mentioned a specific name, Emmeline. There is no official explanation for the strange activity that continues to happen. Whether it's echoes from the past or something else entirely, the feeling at Lake Shawnee is undeniable. For those who visit, the line between the living and the dead feels thinner than most places. Long before the Ferris wheel rusted and the laughter faded, the land beneath Lake Shawnee Amusement Park carried a heavy history. To understand why the park has such a deep and lasting reputation for the paranormal, you have to go back, well before the park was ever built. In the year 1783, a settler named Mitchell Clay moved his family to what is now Mercer County, West Virginia. He and his wife brought their 14 children to the area and built a homestead on the land. But that peaceful life didn't last. While Mitchell was out hunting one day, members of a Native American tribe attacked the homestead. 2 of Clay's children were killed and scalped. A third, his son Ezekiel, was taken by the attackers and later burned at the stake in what is now Ohio. Mitchell Clay retaliated with help from other settlers, tracking and killing several members of the raiding party. That land, soaked in tragedy, remained unsettled for generations, and some believe it never healed. More than 140 years later, in the year 1926, a businessman named Conley T. Snitto bought the property and opened Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. It became a place where local families, mostly those of coal miners, could bring their children to relax and escape. But even during those early years, the park wasn't free of accidents. Over time, there were multiple deaths on the property, including drownings and a fatal accident involving a swing ride. After the park closed for a second and final time, in the year 1988, a former worker named Gaylord White bought the land. He had plans to develop it. But when construction crews started digging, they uncovered something they never expected: bones. Archaeologists from Marshall University came to investigate and confirmed what many had long suspected. The property had once been a Native American burial ground. Over time, they unearthed 13 skeletons. Most were children, and the burial style suggested the remains dated back to a time before white settlers had arrived. For some, that discovery confirmed what they already believed, that the land was never meant to be disturbed, and that disturbing it again and again had brought unrest. Even now, the land seems to resist peace. Nature continues to reclaim the park. Rides are swallowed by vines. The lake sits still and silent. And yet, the stories keep coming. Every fall, visitors return for ghost tours and overnight investigations. Some leave with photos, some with stories. A few leave convinced they've experienced something they can't explain. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park remains one of West Virginia's most haunted locations, not because of one ghost or one tragedy, but because the land itself holds a history of sorrow, loss, and unanswered questions. And those who walk its paths can still feel it long after they leave. Some places are abandoned, others are simply waiting. In the hills of Logan County, West Virginia, there's a winding stretch of road known as 22 Mine Road. Locals sometimes just call it 22 or the Mountain. It's quiet now, surrounded by thick trees and old shadows, but it wasn't always that way. Back in the summer of 1932, something happened on this road that would change it forever. On a Wednesday morning, June 22nd of that year, a man named Garland Davis was out picking blackberries near the top of Trace Mountain. He was 32 years old, and he couldn't hear or speak. But what he found that morning didn't need words. Lying in a ditch off the side of the road was the body of a woman. She had been shot, stabbed, and left for dead in the dirt. Her name was Mamie Thurman, and she was only 31 years old. Mamie lived nearby in the town of Logan. She was known around town for her dark hair, friendly smile, and her regular church visits. She was married to a local policeman, and the two of them rented a small apartment over a garage behind the home of a man named Harry Robertson. The story would get darker from here, but even at that first moment, people could tell this wasn't a robbery. Mamie still had her purse with money inside, rings on her fingers, and even her cigarettes wrapped in paper. There was a piece of paper nearby with a license plate number written on it. Someone had left her there on purpose, and people in Logan would be talking about it for years to come. As the years passed, folks started to believe Mamie never really left that mountain. They say she still walks the road at night, quiet and alone, like she did the night she died. The story of how she got there is full of secrets, and it all started with a blackberry picker on a summer morning in 1932. After Mamie Thurman's body was found on Trace Mountain, the quiet town of Logan, West Virginia, was shaken. As word spread, suspicion began to form. Police turned their attention to where Mamie had been living. Small apartment over a garage behind the home of Harry Robertson and his wife Louise. What they found there raised more questions than answers. Harry Robertson was a bookkeeper at the National Bank of Logan. He wore sharp suits and carried himself like a man with nothing to hide, but behind his thick glasses and pinched face, people began to wonder what secrets he was keeping. Inside his home, state police began a careful search. In the basement, they noticed a dent in the wall that looked like it had been made by a bullet. Bloodstains were found on the carpet and on a straight razor. Even more blood was discovered on the seat and window of Harry Robertson's Ford sedan. Police also began to look at the man who lived in the attic of the Robertson home, a 29-year-old named Clarence Stevenson. He worked as a handyman and often helped Harry around the house and on hunting trips. Investigators soon learned those trips had sometimes been a cover. Clarence was said to have driven Harry to secret meetings, but what else he may have been involved in was unclear. The evidence inside the house, especially the basement, made people wonder if Mamie Thurman had been killed there before her body was taken up the mountain. There were rumors that the crime had not taken place on 22 Mine Road at all, but much closer to home. Still, none of this explained exactly what happened the night Mamie died. For now, the town could only whisper, and the basement with its stains and bullet marks held its silence. By the summer of 1932, the investigation into Mamie Thurman's murder had taken a firm turn toward the two men connected to her home, Harry Robertson and Clarence Stevenson. But as the public waited for justice, what followed only added more mystery to an already strange case. Clarence Stevenson was charged with the murder and taken to jail. Because of rising tensions in Logan County, he had to be moved to Mingo County for his own safety. His trial became one of the most talked about events in the area. He continued to say he was innocent, even as more evidence came forward. He told others that he never killed Mamie and that he had only helped to move her body. Some believed that someone else had committed the murder and used Clarence to cover it up. The grand jury questioned many people during the investigation. There were rumors of a list containing 16 names, men in the area who were said to have had secret relationships with Mamie. That list was never made public, but some say it was shared behind closed doors during the trial. Still, only Clarence stood before the judge. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Harry Robertson, on the other hand, never faced formal charges in court, even though he had admitted to a long affair with Mamie and was the last person confirmed to have seen her alive. The jury never indicted him. Clarence was sent to the West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville on August 22nd, 1934. Years later, he was moved to Huttonsville Prison Farm. He died there in the year 1942 from stomach cancer. Before his death, a fellow inmate said Clarence claimed he knew who killed Mamie, but would never name the person. That silence only deepened the mystery. There were still too many unanswered questions. Why were certain people protected? Why were important trial documents lost or never seen again? And most of all, if Clarence didn't do it, then who did? Years after the murder of Mamie Thurman, stories began to spread across Logan County that something strange lingered on the mountain where her body had been found. Trace Mountain, once just another quiet, rural slope near the Logan-Mingo County line, had taken on a new name among locals, 22 Mountain, named for the stretch of road where Mamie's life ended. It didn't take long for the area to gain a reputation for being haunted. People who visited the site began to share stories of odd feelings and eerie sights. Many reported a sudden drop in temperature when they reached the top of the mountain. Some said they felt like they were being watched, even when no one else was there. One of the most talked about stories involves a woman in a polka dot dress. More than a few people have claimed to see her standing by the side of the road, only to disappear as they got closer. Others have seen her walking along the shoulder of the road late at night. Every sighting happened near the same place, roughly 15 feet from where Mamie's body was first found in the summer of 1932. Another legend has taken root around a strange phenomenon that happens at the bottom of 22 Mine Road. Visitors say that if you park your car, put it in neutral, and take your foot off the brake, the vehicle will begin to roll uphill on its own. Some believe it's just an optical illusion caused by the slant of the land, but many others believe something else is at work. They say Mamie's ghost is pushing the car, still trying to reach someone or somewhere after all these years. While there's never been solid proof of the paranormal on 22 Mountain, these stories have only grown stronger over time. People travel from nearby counties and even other states just to see if the legends are true. Paranormal investigators have visited the area, and many claim to have captured unexplained lights, cold spots, and faint voices in their recordings. Though Mamie Thurman's murder happened nearly 100 years ago, the echoes of that summer still shape the mountain where her body was left. What began as a tragic crime has become one of the most persistent legends in all of Logan County. And despite the time that has passed, new visitors continue to add their own stories to the mystery of 22 Mine Road. Each October, the mountain draws crowds hoping to catch a glimpse of something unusual. A hayride now runs up the slope during the Halloween season, giving locals and tourists a chance to visit the haunted road. For many, it's a thrill. For others, it's a quiet chance to connect with one of the region's darkest stories. Some who have gone up the mountain say they've seen strange lights darting through the trees. Others report hearing footsteps in the gravel when no one is around. There are even those who say they felt a hand touch their shoulder, only to find no one standing behind them. To this day, the final resting place of Mamie Thurman remains uncertain. Official records from the Harris Funeral Home show that her body was transported to Bradsford, Kentucky, for burial. But when asked years later, her husband claimed she was buried at Logan Memorial Park. No headstone has ever been located in either place. This mystery, like the murder itself, was never solved. The question of where Mamie was laid to rest has left many wondering if her spirit still walks the mountain road, because she was never given peace. Stories of haunted places can fade with time, but that hasn't happened on Trace Mountain. The events of June of 1932 left more than just unanswered questions. They left behind a presence that still stirs fear, sadness, and fascination. People keep coming, year after year, drawn by something they can't quite explain. Some come for the history, some come for the thrill, and some leave convinced that Mamie Thurman is still there, watching the road from the shadows. The mountain, the road, and the legend are now forever tied together. And as long as people return to 22 Mine Road, the story of Mamie Thurman will never truly disappear. Moundsville Penitentiary, located in the small town of Moundsville, West Virginia, is an iconic yet chilling structure. The prison's history begins in the late 19th century, with its construction starting in the year 1886. At that time, it was intended to be a facility capable of housing and managing the state's most dangerous criminals. The prison's imposing architecture, with its fortress-like stone walls and cell blocks, stands as a reminder of the harsh conditions that once prevailed within its confines. The location itself added an air of intrigue to the penitentiary's story. Moundsville was built on the grounds of an ancient Native American burial site known as the Grave Creek Mound. This mound is one of the largest and most significant prehistoric burial sites in the region, dating back to around 1000 BC. It was constructed by the Adena people, who used the site as a resting place for their leaders and elders. Some historians and paranormal enthusiasts have speculated that the presence of such a sacred site could have been a catalyst for the strange and mysterious occurrences reported at the prison over the years. The energy of the past, mixed with the dark history of the penitentiary itself, has given rise to a powerful and haunting legend. The penitentiary's construction was a massive undertaking, involving hundreds of workers and a significant investment of time and resources. Designed in a traditional prison style, it featured a cell block with tiers of small, cramped cells, each equipped with only the bare essentials. The prison was designed to house up to 1,000 inmates, though at its peak, the number often exceeded this capacity, leading to overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. These conditions, combined with the lack of proper ventilation, resulted in a harsh and often brutal environment for the men who lived and died within its walls. Over the decades, Moundsville Penitentiary became infamous for the violence that erupted within its cell blocks. Prison riots were a common occurrence, fueled by the tension between rival inmate groups and harsh treatment by guards. The most notorious incident was the riot of 1931, when an outbreak of violence led to the deaths of several inmates. This tragic event, along with countless other acts of violence and misery, added to the penitentiary's reputation as a place shrouded in suffering and despair. It wasn't just the living who were affected by the prison's dark history. Stories of hauntings began to emerge over the years, shared by guards, staff, and even some inmates who claimed to have experienced unexplained phenomena. The presence of spirits, lingering in the shadowy hallways and cell blocks, became a part of the penitentiary's legend. Some people believed that the prison was haunted by the souls of those who had been wronged or had died within its walls, be it from violent encounters, disease, or execution. With time, Moundsville Penitentiary became known not only as a place of punishment, but as a site where the veil between the living and the dead was thin. Rumors spread that the spirits of former inmates who had met their end in the electric chair or had been left to rot in solitary confinement were now trapped within the prison's confines. The most famous and widely discussed ghost was that of Red Snyder, a man who had been convicted of murdering his wife. After spending years behind bars, he met his fate in the electric chair. Some claimed that his presence could be felt as an inexplicable chill that swept through certain rooms, or as the sound of footsteps when no one was there. Yet, Snyder was not the only one whose memory seemed to linger. The entire prison seemed to be imbued with a sense of disquiet and unfinished business. As the years passed, Moundsville Penitentiary was forced to close its doors in the year 1995, after over 100 years of operation. The decision to shut down the prison was not an easy one. It had become a symbol of both punishment and penance, but it was no longer able to meet the needs of modern correctional standards. Once closed, the prison's reputation grew even stronger, transforming it into one of the most famous haunted sites in West Virginia. It wasn't long before ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and paranormal researchers began to flock to the site. The dark, foreboding hallways and echoing sounds of the past made it an ideal location for those seeking a glimpse into the supernatural. Those who dared to step foot inside reported feeling an otherworldly presence, an inexplicable chill, the feeling of being watched, or even the sound of whispered voices. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, one thing is clear. Moundsville Penitentiary is a place with a long, dark, and haunted past, and its story is far from over. Moundsville Penitentiary was not just a prison. It was a place that held the stories of many lives, and in some cases, those lives were filled with darkness and cruelty. From the very beginning, it had an air of foreboding, a silent promise of suffering. But it wasn't just the inmates who endured hardship. The prison guards and staff were also affected by the oppressive atmosphere that seeped from the stone walls. It wasn't uncommon for guards to report strange occurrences during their night shifts, shadows moving in the corners of their eyes, distant shouts echoing through the halls when no one was there, or the unsettling feeling of being watched from unseen corners. One of the most striking elements of Moundsville Penitentiary's haunted history is the existence of solitary confinement. Known as the Hole, solitary confinement was a place where inmates were sent as punishment, isolated from the rest of the prison population. It was dark, cramped, and often filled with the sound of moaning and whispered curses. Inmates who spent extended periods in the Hole were known to suffer from severe psychological distress. Many of them returned to the general population changed, speaking of shadowy figures that seemed to lurk in the corners of their cells, or the feeling of being gripped by unseen hands. Some even said they could hear the voices of former prisoners, taunting them or warning them of the fate that awaited them. Those who experienced such phenomena were left shaken, and some reported that the whispers continued long after they had left the confines of the penitentiary. One particular legend that still holds sway over those who visit the site is that of the shadowy figures seen throughout the prison. Stories of these apparitions emerged from both inmates and staff members, who described them as dark, human-shaped figures that moved quickly and silently through the corridors. Some would catch a fleeting glimpse as the figure disappeared into a wall or around a corner. Others claimed to have felt an icy touch or seen a figure standing just out of reach, watching with hollow, soulless eyes. The most unsettling encounters were those where the shadow figure seemed to follow the observer, lingering just behind them before vanishing as suddenly as it appeared. The prison was also a place where violence and anger festered, creating an environment thick with resentment and hate. Violent confrontations between inmates were common, leading to injuries and even death. One notable event was the riot in the year 1931, which left a scar on the penitentiary's already troubled history. During this riot, the violence reached its peak, with inmates attacking one another and guards. The prison staff struggled to contain the chaos, and it was said that during this time, a strange and sinister energy pervaded the air. Even after the riot was quelled, many reported that the prison never fully recovered from the bloodshed that had taken place within its walls. The echoes of that night seemed to resonate in the corridors, a whispered reminder of the violence that had occurred. The prison was also known for its harsh conditions, which contributed to the sense of suffering that permeated the institution. Inmates often battled illnesses that spread rapidly in the overcrowded, unsanitary conditions. Tuberculosis, influenza, and other diseases took the lives of many, and their spirits are said to linger, still trapped within the prison's confines. Guards reported hearing the sounds of coughing, as if there were sick prisoners in the cells, even when the cell block was empty. These sounds were joined by the sound of faint cries, as though unseen voices were moaning in pain, seeking a release they would never find. But perhaps one of the most chilling aspects of Moundsville Penitentiary's past was the execution chamber, where the electric chair, known as Old Sparky, was used. The prison's execution history was marked by the deaths of both men and women convicted of the most heinous crimes. It was said that the scent of burnt hair and the eerie hum of the electric chair could still be sensed by those who dared to enter the room. Some claim that the ghostly presence of those who had faced the electric chair lingers in the room, their spirits restless and full of resentment. There have even been reports of the chair moving slightly, as though a hand had touched it, a sign that the souls of those who had met their end there were not at peace. Visitors to the penitentiary today speak of the palpable sense of history that hangs in the air. Stepping into the dimly lit cell blocks, with their high ceilings and rusted bars, one can almost hear the murmur of conversations that echo from the past. The air feels heavy, as though it's burdened with the weight of the past. The feeling of being watched grows stronger as you walk further, and some have reported sudden chills that run up their spines, even in the warmth of the summer. It's a place where the past never truly leaves, where the stories of those who lived and died within its walls continue to reverberate, making Moundsville Penitentiary a place where history and the supernatural collide. As the years passed, Moundsville Penitentiary became more than just a prison. It transformed into a place where the living and the dead seemed to coexist. Its eerie reputation spread far and wide, drawing in ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and those who were simply curious about the claims of supernatural activity. Visitors from around the world have entered the penitentiary with the hope of experiencing something they cannot explain, but many leave with stories that chill the spine. One of the most commonly reported occurrences at Moundsville is the sound of footsteps. Many visitors and former guards have described hearing footsteps following them down empty hallways or in areas that are difficult to access. The footsteps often seem to echo in the silence, coming from behind or nearby, but never revealing the source. It's as if someone or something is shadowing the living, keeping a careful distance yet never quite leaving them alone. This phenomenon has been reported throughout the cell blocks, the corridors, and even in the prison's dark, damp basement, where echoes can become almost deafening. Another compelling story comes from those who have ventured into the infirmary, a place once filled with suffering as inmates battled illness and injury. The infirmary is known for its particularly unsettling atmosphere, where some claim they've seen ghostly figures move behind the cracked glass of old windows. It's not just the visual sightings that disturb visitors. It's the feeling that there is still sickness in the air. Many have reported sudden, unexplained coughs, or the sense of a cold, damp hand brushing against the back of their necks. Some claim that an icy presence clings to them, an invisible reminder of those who met their end due to disease in that very building. The chapel, too, holds its share of ghost stories. During the penitentiary's operational years, it was a place where both inmates and guards sought solace or redemption. In the quiet, somber space, whispers of prayer and the creak of wooden benches are said to come alive when no one is present. It's been reported that a flickering light will appear at the far end of the room, seemingly moving and dancing to an unseen rhythm. On some occasions, visitors claim that the faint sound of a hymn can be heard, though there's no one there to sing it. Those who have experienced this say it's as if the chapel's past, filled with desperation, hope, and fear, is bleeding into the present. The solitary confinement block, known for its isolation and the psychological torment it inflicted, holds some of the most chilling tales. Those who have walked through this section describe feeling a sudden drop in temperature as if stepping into a place where warmth is forbidden. Some say they have heard muffled voices calling out from the empty cells, pleading or whispering secrets that can never be understood. There are also accounts of shadows flitting from cell to cell, as though inmates are trapped in a never-ending cycle of confinement. One visitor recounted feeling a weight pressing on their chest, as if an unseen hand were pushing down, causing them to feel suffocated and unable to breathe. It's not just the experienced ghost hunters who find themselves affected by Moundsville's dark energy. A local historian, who has spent countless hours documenting the prison's history, once ventured into the prison's execution chamber late one night. He described an overwhelming sense of dread and a sudden deep silence that blanketed the room. He said it was as though the building itself had taken a breath, holding it in anticipation. He was overcome with the feeling that unseen eyes were watching him, and as he turned to leave, he swore he heard the faint, low hum of the electric chair sparking, as if it were coming to life once more. Visitors also tell of hearing the sound of doors clanging shut when no one is around. These doors were known to slam shut with force during the prison's operational days, signifying punishment or escape attempts. Today, the sound is heard with a startling familiarity, as if the prison has retained a part of its old, violent self. Some claim to have seen the doors rattling, though there's no logical explanation for why they would move on their own. And then there are the voices. So many voices. They've come in murmurs and whispers floating through the halls, sometimes spoken in languages that visitors don't recognize. In some cases, the whispers seem to be pleading for help, echoing off the cold stone walls. Other times, the voices are sharp and accusing, like the sounds of arguments or shouts of anger that reverberate throughout the empty corridors. These disembodied voices often leave those who hear them shaken, uncertain whether what they experienced was a real sound or the trick of a tired mind. Even skeptics, people who come to Moundsville with doubts and questions, often leave with an unshakable sense that they've felt something beyond the ordinary. Whether they attribute it to their own fears or to the weight of history, they walk away with stories of their own, stories that add to the mysterious legacy of Moundsville Penitentiary. Moundsville Penitentiary's legacy is not just one of prison bars and past violence, but of spirits that continue to walk its halls, refusing to be forgotten. Over the years, many accounts have surfaced from guards, former inmates, and visitors, all sharing a common thread of unexplained events and ghostly encounters. It is said that the spirits of those who died in the prison cells and execution chamber have never truly left, their presence now part of the penitentiary's dark history. One of the most frequently discussed areas is the prison's death row. This was where the final moments of many inmates' lives were spent. The execution chamber itself, a cold and sterile space, holds a particularly heavy reputation. Even before it was used for its intended purpose, it was said to be cursed. Former guards who have worked in this area have shared that they sometimes feel an inexplicable chill when passing through, as though a ghostly hand is brushing against their arm. Some claim that on occasion they can hear a faint, whispered voice that seems to say, "It's not over." No one knows what this voice signifies, but it's a detail that has haunted those who have heard it. For those who visit Moundsville with the hopes of encountering the supernatural, the experience often comes with a mix of anticipation and dread. The North Cell Block, once a crowded and chaotic part of the prison, is a spot where visitors report feeling watched. This section was notorious for being the most dangerous part of the penitentiary, where fights and violent outbursts were common. The energy there is said to still crackle with the echoes of past conflict, as if the anger of the past has seeped into the walls. Some visitors describe sudden, unexplained cold spots as they walk through, a stark contrast to the otherwise stagnant, musty air. Other stories come from those who have ventured into the prison's kitchen, a place of daily necessity and monotony for the inmates. The kitchen holds memories of long hours spent preparing meals. Today, people who have toured that area sometimes report hearing the sounds of clattering dishes and the scuffle of footsteps as though an unseen cook is preparing a meal. One visitor recounted feeling as if they were being watched from behind, only to turn around and see nothing but the empty, dimly lit space. The smell of old food sometimes wafts through the air, a sensory reminder of the life that once thrived there. The prison's isolation ward, used for punishing and separating the most problematic inmates, is also a focal point for ghostly activity. Those who have explored this part of the prison say it has an almost suffocating energy. Many report hearing the sound of faint, scratchy sobbing, as though a prisoner who was locked away for too long was crying for release. Some have said they've felt a sudden, unexplainable sadness while passing through, sense that they were being pulled into the mental torment that the isolation block inflicted on its residents. The feeling lingers long after they've moved on, a reminder of the human suffering that took place within those walls. The stories don't end with the prison's interior. The area surrounding Moundsville Penitentiary, which was once an active and bustling part of the town, also holds whispers of the past. Local legends speak of sightings of shadowy figures darting between trees that line the prison's perimeter. Some say these are the spirits of inmates who tried to escape, their restless souls forever caught in the cycle of the chase. Those who live nearby have reported seeing glimpses of figures that vanish the moment they're noticed, as if the prison's influence extends beyond its physical boundaries. Reports of the mysterious, ominous Shadow Man continue to circulate. He is often described as a dark, humanoid figure, taller than an average person, moving swiftly across the prison's cell blocks and corridors. Some who have seen him report that he moves with an unnatural speed, disappearing into thin air as soon as he is noticed. While some believe that the figure is a manifestation of guilt or anger from the prison's dark past, others argue that it's the spirit of a specific inmate who was executed and never found peace. The most unsettling stories, however, come from those who have experienced sudden, inexplicable changes in the atmosphere. Some visitors describe stepping into a room only to be hit by an overwhelming sense of dread, a sudden pressure in the air that seems to weigh on their chest. It's as if the room itself holds memories of pain and violence so strong that it radiates outward. For many, it's an experience that leaves a lasting impression, and though they may be eager to leave the penitentiary, they can't help but wonder if they are taking a piece of its history with them, something that will linger long after they have returned to their normal lives. These stories, filled with unexplainable events and ghostly encounters, are part of what makes Moundsville Penitentiary such a compelling subject for those interested in the paranormal. Whether it's the shadowy figure in the corner, the whispering voices, or the unshakable feeling that you are not alone, it's clear that the past of Moundsville Penitentiary has not been left behind. Instead, it haunts the present, a chilling reminder that some stories refuse to die. As we draw to a close on our exploration of Moundsville Penitentiary, it's clear that this place is more than just a relic of the past. The prison's history, filled with stories of violence, despair, and suffering, has left a deep imprint on its structure and surroundings. Whether it's the restless spirits of inmates who never found peace, or the echoes of guards who once patrolled the cell blocks, Moundsville Penitentiary continues to be a center of fascination for those drawn to the supernatural. The prison's eerie reputation has attracted a wide range of people over the years, from casual visitors and history buffs to professional paranormal investigators. These investigators often spend hours in the dark, recording audio, photographing the silent halls, and trying to communicate with the spirits that are said to linger. While some leave with concrete evidence, captured voices, unexplained apparitions, or cold spots that defy explanation, others find nothing at all. This duality raises the question, is Moundsville Penitentiary genuinely haunted? Or is it the product of suggestion, the power of stories, and the human mind's tendency to create patterns in the unknown? Despite the skepticism, there is something undeniably compelling about the sheer volume of stories shared by those who have stepped foot inside the penitentiary. Tour guides recount tales of visitors who have turned pale at the sudden cold touch of an unseen hand, or those who have fled in terror after hearing a whisper or seeing a fleeting shadow. The energy of the place, charged with a history of human suffering and violence, creates an atmosphere that is both unsettling and unforgettable. Among the most compelling mysteries is the question of why this former prison has become a focal point for paranormal activity. One popular theory is that Moundsville's location, built on the grounds of an ancient Native American burial site, plays a role in the strange occurrences. While the stories of spiritual unrest in this area are difficult to confirm, they are consistent with the belief that places where the past has been particularly traumatic are often rife with supernatural activity. The land itself, holding centuries of history, may serve as a conduit for the spirits who cannot move on. Another explanation often proposed is that Moundsville Penitentiary is haunted by the collective trauma of its former inhabitants. The prison was home to thousands of men who faced harsh conditions and often violent fates. This level of suffering, experienced over decades, could create a kind of residual energy that lingers long after the prison's closure. The stories of visitors hearing disembodied voices, feeling a sudden rush of cold air, or even seeing figures darting out of the corner of their eyes may not be just folklore, but evidence of that energy manifesting itself. As we examine the history of the prison, we see a complex tapestry of human emotion, anger, guilt, regret, and despair. The stories of inmates like Red Snyder, who faced the electric chair after committing a heinous crime, and others who endured brutal violence during their time inside, contribute to the lore of the penitentiary. Whether or not Snyder's spirit truly lingers, the reality of the suffering he and many others experienced adds weight to the idea that Moundsville Penitentiary is a place that will never truly be empty. For those who have ventured into Moundsville with a desire to see or feel the supernatural, the experience can be deeply personal and unsettling. Whether it's the chill of the north cell block, the whispers in the solitary confinement wing, or the shadowy figure seen crossing the hallway, each visitor leaves with their own interpretation. Some might walk away convinced that they encountered a ghost, while others may dismiss their experiences as coincidental. But one fact remains: Moundsville Penitentiary has left an undeniable mark on those who have dared to step inside. And as the sun sets over the small town of Moundsville, casting long shadows over the prison's decaying walls, it's hard not to wonder about the spirits that remain. Are they the victims of their fate, the perpetrators of violence, or simply lost souls who never found release? One thing is certain: Moundsville Penitentiary is a place where history, legend, and the supernatural collide. A haunting reminder that some stories are too powerful to be buried, and some spirits too restless to move on. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the haunted history of Moundsville Penitentiary. And don't forget to leave your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you're intrigued by the stories of haunted places, be sure to check out our other videos that dive into the most eerie locations around the world. Until next time, stay curious and keep searching for the truth behind the legends.